While programmers usually control the logic and results of a program, we often need information from the user so we can return personalized output. Python's inputs function lets you read whatever the user types. You call it by writing input and putting a message inside the parentheses to prompt the user. By now you know the pattern, a function name, parentheses, and arguments inside. That is the standard way to call a function. So what can you do with input? For example, you can ask the user for their age. When the program runs, Python shows the prompt and waits for the user to type. If the user types 20 and presses enter, Python continues running the next lines of code, but just calling input doesn't tell you what the user entered. Fortunately, input returns that text, so you should store it in a variable. Once you have the value in a variable, you can use it for whatever logic you need. One important detail: import always returns a string, even if the user types a number. So if you try to do math directly with user age, Python will complain. What do you do then? Python provides an int function that converts a string into an integer. For example, int 666 returns the number 666. Just make sure the string actually represents a valid integer, otherwise int will throw an error. Similarly, floats converts a value into a decimal number, and str turns any value into a string. If you want to print a number together with text, you need to convert the number to a string first, otherwise Python will throw an error. So in our example, if you want to do math with the user's age, convert it to an integer with int first. And if you want to print the result along with text, convert that result back into a string with str. So if the user enters 20 and presses enter, the program will output, "You will be 30 years old in 10 years." And now it is practice time. We can use input to build a simple BMI calculator for users. BMI stands for Body Mass Index. Its calculation formula is BMI equals weight divided by height squared. Weight is measured in kilograms and height in meters. First, we define a variable user weight and set it equal to the user's input for weight. We'll prompt the user, "Please enter your weight in kilograms." Then we define user height and set it equal to the user's input for height in meters. Next, we define user BMI, which equals weight divided by height squared. Now here, as you can see, Y's PyCharm is already hinting at a problem. Currently, user weight and user height are strings, so we can't directly divide or square them. We need to convert both into numbers first. And note, we cannot use int for height, otherwise everyone would be 1 meter tall. So instead, we use the float function to convert the strings into floating point numbers. This way, we can calculate the BMI value. Finally, we can print the result for the user. If I write it like this right now, it will still cause an error, because remember, we also need to convert the number back into a string before printing. So let's use the str function one more time. Now we can run it and give it a try. Enter some numbers and it runs successfully. Now this simple calculator can compute the BMI for any height and weight.